Okay, I'm calling the Beach Haven regular meeting to order today at 7 o'clock. It is December the 12th, 2016. And the flag salute is led by Mr. Cactus.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Caxis?
Here.
Mr. Keeler?
Here.
Mr. Maskell?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mayor Davis?
Here. Rich, would you please give us the manager's report?
Sure, Mayor. I'm going to vary a little bit differently from my normal routine this evening. I don't know how many people know, but this is my last monthly meeting here in Beach Haven. I will be retiring as of December 30th of this month. So I thought instead of just going through the normal department things, I would share a few thoughts about my 18-year tenure here in Beach Haven. And it's kind of interesting, the circle of life. I was introduced to the Beach Haven community, actually almost to the day, December 14th, 1998. My son and I drove down here, a little about an hour from Lindenwool in Camden County, to be introduced at the council meeting. But before I get into the council meeting, I thought I'd just go back even the process itself, which if I'd known at the time how unique Beach Haven was, I might have had second thoughts. But even the employment process was unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. It was in the tail end of the summer of 1998. I saw a advertisement for a new administrator's position in the borough of Beach Haven. I'd never been to the borough of Beach Haven before. I'd been to Long Beach Island, but I'd never been to Beach Haven. I've said I can't tell you how many different resumes out through my career up to that point and how many interviews I've been on, and I simply said, ooh, this is a beach community, it's August, just for a lark, I'll see if I take a hit, it'll give me an excuse to take a day at the beach. Little did I know what was going to happen next. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I get a call from a gentleman by the name of Paul Schultz. Mr. Schultz has passed away, but at the time he introduced himself as one of a committee of 3 citizens at large who had been designated to screen candidates for the administrator's position, and wanted to know whether I was still interested, and if in fact I would want to take a drive down and meet with him and the committee members and talk about possibly, joining the Beach Haven community. I said, sure. Instead of giving me directions to Borough Hall as I would have expected, I was given directions to Mr. Hall's house, and I spent the next 2 hours sitting on the enclosed porch of Mr. Hall and 2 other members of the community, of which unfortunately I don't recall their names, and we had a nice chat. It wasn't even, I couldn't really call it an interview, it was more of a chat. I think I learned more about Beach Haven than they learned about me. I was told at the end of the 2 hours that the next part of the process would be, they were just one of several committees, that committee members would come to a consensus of the candidates that they interview, recommend one candidate to the borough commissioners, and then they would conduct their interviews. I said, okay, got back in my car, drove home thinking I'd never hear from them again. About a month later, of course, Judy Howard gives me a call and says the commissioners would like to meet with you. So by this point, it was the end of October. Came down in the morning. Again, instead of sitting in a conference room, we went back into then Mayor Deb Woodcraft's office, where we all sat on couches and chairs and just kind of chatted. Again, unlike interviews that I've had in the past, I thought it went well. Got in a car, drove back home for an hour and a half. I don't think I was in the house for 10 minutes when the phone rang, and it was Judy Howard. And she said, the commissioners would like to offer you a job. I said, are you kidding me? I haven't even had time to talk it over with my family. It just so happened to be a Friday, so I said to Judy, Judy, I really have to give this a little thought. I said, could you at least give me until the beginning of next week to get back to you? And I most definitely will, but I really have to think things through, which I did, which she did. Sunday morning, I get a call from Mr. Schultz. If you remember Mr. Schultz, the gentleman that originally arranged the interview. And he said, I understand through the grapevine that you've been selected to be the next administrator, the new administrator. And I said, that's correct, Mr. Schultz. He said, might I ask how much they offered you? I gave him the figure. He said to me, that's not enough. Again, I've never been through an interview. And he said, so he named a figure that he thought I should ask for. I then Monday morning,
The taxpayer.
yeah, no, it wasn't. Called Judy Howard, and she didn't know quite what to do with it. Not knowing the commissioners at the time, I can almost imagine the reactions, particularly from the mayor. And after a short pause, they got back on the phone, and sure enough, they hired me, and I started. But getting back to that evening on December the 14th, I drove down that evening with my son, who was 9 years old at the time. We pulled up outside Borough Hall. There's quite a few cars, and I was probably about 6:45, and I walked inside, and I have to say, at that point, I probably had already worked for 4 other towns. Generally speaking, unless there's a school budget in need of review or some other major topic, you're lucky if there's 6 people that show up at a council meeting. I walked in and it was standing room only. They had reserved a couple of seats for my son and I sat down, I'm thinking, oh dear God, they're all here to see me? No, they weren't here to see me. They were here to bitch and moan about the new hockey rink that they were fighting about in Nelson Avenue. There again, I should have figured there was something very strange about this. Of course, I got to mention that particular controversy, which wound up costing the town $170,000 of litigation. But that was the beginning for me in Beach Haven. So the other part that was explained to me at the time was that being named administrator was just a temporary measure. That the town had every intention of making it the council manager form of government, of which I had experience in 2 other municipalities. And I said, that's great, it's a wonderful form of government. And they said, we're gonna have to get it on the ballot in November, and then we'll take it from there. Well, they didn't get on the ballot that year. I forget which year it was, but it was several years later, it got on the ballot. And those that were living in town that know that particular, it was defeated. And I'm going, what? So not even thinking that, oh, I'm settled now, I might as well see how things go. Never thinking that it would take 11 years from the time I was hired before they finally passed the measure that created the council manager form of government. I'm very appreciative of the combination of my longevity here. It allowed me to be here for the 11 years, and also the good judgment of the incoming council to decide to retain my services. And I've since got to experience the town manager form of government for the last 6+ years. So, moving a couple other comments. Beach Haven itself, I mean, when you come from a suburban community where I grew up and other suburban communities that I worked, you're never quite ready for a seasonal resort community. It's really a real different, all of you may have moved from other areas, it really is a different thing. It brings its own set of challenges that you really have to experience to be here. The swings in population, I mean, I arrived in January, and I remember making a comment similar to this at a meeting in April, that I was looking forward to the people coming, and the crowd and the audience thought I was crazy. Well, after experiencing a few summers, I understand exactly what they meant. You also have to make adjustments living and working on Barrier Island. I mean, I had the opportunity to live here as well as work here. And I mean, just the conditions in terms of hurricanes, nor'easters, everyday wind and flooding. I still ask George about the tides. I guess I'm never going to quite figure the tides out. But at least I now understand if I look at the sky the night before and it's almost a full moon, I'm going to have to drive in the left-hand lane because the right-hand lane is going to be flooded. And then also the people. I mean, I have to say, the folks here, the population has certainly changed over the years, but They never cease to amaze me how interesting they are. I have noted here, I mean, on any given day, I could be having a conversation 1 minute with the CEO of an international corporation and then deal with one of our local clammers. I mean, that's the wide variety of people we have here. It struck me from day one, the passion that they have for this town, the interest they take in the government. I can't tell you, it's not the same elsewhere. It's a very, very interesting place. Finally concluding, life is a circle, and no more than the fact that that 9-year-old boy that came with me that evening, he's now 27 years old, and though he swore to me through the years that he hated what I did for a living and couldn't understand why we had to keep moving, he's now the administrator of a small town in Middlesex County. So I'm basically this evening passing the baton on, not just to him, but to the younger members of my staff here, who I have to say that I'm proud to have had a hand in both hiring most of them, and I hope passing on some bit of my knowledge and training. And I wish their luck in the future. That's it.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, so we're on to the minutes, and we have all the minutes but November 9th. Does everybody? I guess you need to read what.
Yes, October 7, 2016, October 11, 2016, regular meeting, October 19, 2016, agenda meeting.
Has everybody read the minutes?
Yes.
Is everybody okay with the minutes then? So we do have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, we're on to ordinances.
2016-25C, an ordinance amending Chapter 51 of the Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to remove a leash requirement for cats in public places.
This is the final
reading.
passage of this ordinance, so I open it to public comment. I knew you'd be up there, Michael.
Well, just be forewarned, if you're the type of person who thinks that cats should go outside and they find their way over to me and let me know that they want to stay, you'll never see them again. I got 3 cats like that now. They were
So
spayed
you're a
and
cat
neutered.
stealer?
No, I rescued abandoned, cast-off ferals and unwanted animals. I got 3 now that were spayed and neutered when they came to me, and I've had them for over 12 years. Somebody, I guess, let them out, they found their way to me, and they do not want to leave. So anyway, I don't think it's a good idea, but, you know, in the scheme of things, it's, you know, it's okay.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, so are there any more public comments on the cat leash ordinance? In that case, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve 25C.
Second.
Okay. Jim seconds. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, you have to read it.
Sorry. Mr. Cassis?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Ordinance 2016-26C, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 136, nuisances of the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to include water drainage. Final passage.
Okay, this is the final passage, so again, this is open to public comment. Okay, please state your name and address when you get up to the mic.
Michael Peeler, 208 North Bay Avenue. I didn't have a chance to read this over, but I expect this is for neighbors that drain their water onto other properties. But there's no grandfather clause, right? I mean, if they've been doing it all along, now that we got this ordinance, they can't say,
Well, you can drain, I think you brought this up before, and I think Sherry provided you with
Yeah,
some
not on
information.
other people's property though. His
But-
question was.
oh, okay.
right,
another
it's not grandfather.
Right, it's not.
No, you can't like dump your water on another person, but there are certain times that you can drain if you
Oh,
have.
that was good. I'm surprised I didn't know that about using a sub pump. like in the dark of night, you know, to get your crawl space drained. And who's going to enforce this?
Well, hopefully our code enforcer.
Okay, because I expect you'll be hearing about it before too long.
Okay.
Weather keeps up.
Well, we'll see.
Okay,
Okay,
and
all right. Is that
I
it?
really appreciate you doing this. Sometimes people need encouragement to behave correctly. I know I've had that encouragement sometimes.
Okay, Mr. Burris, and I guess you're going to make some comments on the drainage ordinance.
Hi, just one. Is this ordinance adopted for a specific circumstance?
I can't hear you.
Is this ordinance adopted for a specific circumstance?
I think it's not one specific circumstance, but numerous circumstances.
My question was because, and Michael kind of asked about the grandfathering, but his property has had a history of about 10 years of issues with his neighbor, and I know the township engineer has been involved, and I was curious if this evolved out of their discussions.
I think it evolved out of, you know, Mike bringing it up to that particular instance to our attention. And then when we did some investigation and found out that we had nothing to deal with this problem on the books, we acted immediately to get it corrected for that instance and any other instances that may.
I think it's needed, and the only comment that I have aside from this is a good thing is that Mr. Kaxis had talked about dealing with some other stormwater management issues that kind of interrelate to this. It's one thing to regulate stormwater, but you need a place to deal with it overall. I'm sure you're doing something about that.
Yes. Just as long as it's not on somebody's property.
Anybody else like to make a public comment relating to this particular ordinance? In that case, I close floor for public comments. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Motion to approve 2016-26C.
Second?
Vote.
Mr. Kaxis?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Masco?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
2016-27C, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 134, Noise of the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey by adding Article 2, implementing a noise prevention ordinance consistent with the Noise Control Act of 1971, NJSA 13:1G-1, as an alternative to, not a replacement of sections 134-1 to section 4 of the code. Final passage.
Again, is there a public comment?
Back again. I know there was a problem about certified monitors, people who have the device and can come to the place where there's a problem. Has this been solved, or is it just one person and hopefully he's on duty? I don't know, is he on our force, or is it just?
No.
This
So
involves
it's-
the public health department.
No, the health
It does.
department required this to
It
be in
requires
there.
this.
And they're the ones that monitor it, and they're the ones that have the
And they're on
updated
all
equipment.
24 hours a day? Or, you know,
Well, that's a good question, because they're probably not on call 24 hours a day, but basically, in order to enforce this properly, we do have to have, by law, this level of the ability to measure the noise.
well, usually I would expect if people complain, Kevin or his troops would show up and all of a sudden it would get quiet.
Well, I mean, we can
That's
still,
what the noise meter is for. It's for the Board of Health generally to do air conditioning and things like that, so it's not a 24-hour
And
thing.
I think
Nuisance complaints are handled by the police department, and they
Okay,
handle
this,
24
I think
hours.
this started when the generators came to town for Atlantic Electric. There
this
was
is a
problem
little
with
bit, I mean, partially, but this is a little bit different than I think what most of us think, because we think of noise like loud parties and
that.
bands.
Well, this
But
is for mechanical.
Jim's right, this deals with equipment that's running all the time. I just read a very interesting article about how damaging noise really is to the loss of hearing. There's been a huge loss of hearing in people in this country, young people. And the amount of decibels is that you can tolerate that you can tolerate noise at lower decibels than what you think is not very long. And so the Public Health Department, this is a state mandated regulation that wasn't in our ordinance. So we really have to add it to our ordinance. It's really for the health of the general population.
Okay, just
Yeah,
curious.
it's a good thing.
Excuse me?
It's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I have hearing loss probably because I've
I
been.
just tried to add some.
Right.
I've been sitting next to me too long.
Okay, thanks.
Good for Cat.
Okay, you trying to outbill me?
Yeah, I guess, not really. So this is a ordinance that's modeled after a 1971 or something from 45 years ago. Is there anything specific that's bringing this to the table now?
Yes, we had a noise meter in our noise ordinance complaint. It was a very expensive proposition. Somebody had to be trained, somebody wouldn't be on duty all the time. So we took it out because nobody could follow the ordinance. Once we took it out, the Board of Health said when they went around to enforce certain laws, they said we have to have it in your ordinance for us to follow the law. So we had to add that back in. They're the ones with the meter, and they're the ones with the qualified people that read it, have it calibrated on a regular basis, and keep it up to date. It has nothing to do with our noise.
Does this have to do with the siren by any chance?
No.
No.
Not the
That
siren?
doesn't last long enough for her.
Oh my God, that's the most hideous thing
There
around.
was a complaint that came in about air conditioners and condensers in the residential zone. It's been sitting on Dan's desk in the health department, and he can't finish the complaint without this decibel chart in our ordinance.
Wow,
That's what
okay.
it's for.
And they got to take into account the surrounding normal level of noise. Like if you're on the beach and there was a surf coming off the surf, you got to take that into account. You got to take into account the wind. So an individual has to be trained, which is not the normal training of police or law enforcement to be able to do it. It's something that the health department would provide the training. And they'll provide the proper equipment that has to be calibrated all the time. So and that's not something we want to burden the police department with.
I understand, and I know we're kind of a community of small lots, so these things could be an issue. I've just never seen anything like this. I think it's pretty, I want to make sure that none of my businesses
Right.
are creating issues that could.
That's
ultimately-
good.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, you
Well,
know.
we'll let you know.
Well, have there been complaints? I mean, you know, this is a pretty extreme
Not
reaction, I
onerous,
think.
I don't think.
I don't think.
Nothing's changed. We just put the
Just by law.
equipment back into the ordinance.
Okay,
By law.
All right.
I don't think it's going to affect you.
all right, thanks.
Anybody else want to make a public comment on the noise ordinance? In that case, I close the floor to public comments. Do I have a motion to approve the
The
ordinance?
motion's approved, 2016-27C.
A second?
Second.
Mr. Texas?
Yes.
Nothing to do with that
Mr.
one.
Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2016-28C, an ordinance amending Section 12, Chapter 27, Personnel, Article 2, Personal Policies of the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey. Final reading.
Again, it's final reading, so would anybody like to come forth and discuss this ordinance? In that case, I close the floor to public comments.
I can make a motion to approve 28C.
Second.
Mr. Texas?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler? Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes. Okay, resolutions within the consent agenda. Christie, do you want to read the resolution?
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. 237, authorizing the amendment to the existing professional services agreement with the Borough Solicitor. Number 238, returning piling bonds. Number 241, appointing special law enforcement officers, Class 2. 242, returning park bonds. 243, acknowledging the execution of an employment contract between Chris Carson, Department of Public Works Superintendent, and the Borough of Beach Haven. 244, acknowledging the execution of an employment contract between Dean Cleland, Department of Public Works Supervisor at the Borough of Beach Haven. Number 245, acknowledging the execution of an employment contract between Beach Haven Police Department, PBA Local 175, and the Borough of Beach Haven. Number 246, appointing Jennifer Klein as Welfare Director. Number 247, authorizing the reappointment of Sharon Bowler as CMFO. Number 248, acknowledging the promotion of James L. Markowski to captain and the execution of an employment contract. Number 249, approving an agreement with Atlantic City Electric for temporary attachments. Number 250, approving an agreement with Jetty Rock Foundation for the use of Taylor Avenue Park for the annual Hot Sauce event. Number 252, amending the existing professional services agreement for auditing services. Number 253, canceling of taxes. Number 254, executing an agreement with Regina Lolito for social media marketing services.
Is there anybody that would like to remove any of these specific resolutions for further discussion? Anybody on council?
No.
No.
Okay, in that case, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the resolutions as read. Second.
Mr. Katsas?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes. Next is approval of the bills, and I want to thank Shari Bowler again for getting these out in such a timely manner. Has everybody read the bills?
Had a chance to read all the bills? I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I think we need to say how much the bills are, so.
The approval of bills for the amount of $1,340,105.35.
So a motion to approve, Chuck, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Katsas?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Maskell?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes. All right, now we're at the public comment part of the meeting. So if you have a public comment, would you please come forward, state your name and address, and speak.
Michael Peeler. Nice to see you here one last time, Bob. I miss you.
Nice to see you too, Mark.
And
Thank you.
hopefully, things will go well for your family. And I would normally come anyway, but I would not miss it because this is Rich's last time here. And I do remember when you first came on here. I had a series of jokes I thought I would try to pull off, but I'm going to pass. Just one question. I remember when you came, you were young and good looking.
I know.
And what happened? But I remember meeting your boy and how the look of pride on your face when you introduced him. And you complaining about the place you lived in Beach Haven had no AC, and oh man, was that torture. And I want to thank you for always having an open door, returning calls, emails, and anytime I popped in, you always had a minute. And I was grateful for that. And for Sherry taking over, I hope you have a firm and steady hand. I wish you all the luck. And I appreciate it, Rich. And good luck with everything. May the wind and the weather be gentle to you, and you fill your life with good things.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael, that was very nice.
Quite welcome.
Anybody else like to come up forward? Okay, state your name and address.
Good evening, Colleen Lambert, 115 8th Street. I was just wondering, and I know this is kind of a dilemma for all the council members, what your take was on the new assessments. Frankly,
The tax assessment.
Yes, the new tax
Oh, oh.
assessment.
I think Rich should address this. I mean, I was assessed, no, I was assessed a lot more too. What I understand, the assessment isn't necessarily going to affect our tax rate it evens it out. So some of us might pay more, some might less, but Rich, could I mean, you're very knowledgeable and you've been through numerous companies.
I actually look back, Colleen, at 2004, which was the last revaluation, and anybody in the audience that had property in town at that time remembered there was a shift from the commercial district over to the residential, and the value of the land underneath the property of the structure went up significantly. I haven't seen any of the values yet, but I did stop in the end of last week one morning. We had the revaluation people. They're still here if anybody wants to come in and have a one-on-one meeting with them. I strongly encourage you to. But I did have the opportunities to grab their lead guy. And I said, just in general, can you tell me, what's going on, where the shifts might be? It doesn't appear to be as much of a shift this time in terms of the vacant land itself, but the structures have gone up. The values, I guess, because the houses are just that much bigger. Nor did they see a huge shift from the commercial. So other than that, I really couldn't say. I was sharing with Bob earlier. I mean, one of my fears for property owners here in that, when you talk about properties, well, I'll talk about the local tax rate. The local tax rate for supporting the budget here at the town hall, that's not going to change. It's just the way it gets divided. So I said to Jim, it's a third, a third, a third. A third of the people will go up, a third of the people will stay the same, a third will go down. And that same would apply for the local school. But when you get to the regional school district and then the county, you're talking bigger pies. In other words, we're part of a bigger pie. And my fear for the property owners here is that property values have continued to rise here. They're not rising on the mainland at all. If anything, they've gone down. I speak from personal experience. I have a house on the market in Manahawkin right now, and it's been sitting there for 6 months, and it's significantly below what I originally paid for. So when it comes, I'm thinking to the pie, I think what's going to happen is, first Beach Haven and as the other communities on the island are forced to go through revaluation, the island is going to continue to take in a bigger piece of the county pie. And there's no way around it because that's how in the state of New Jersey the governmental units are supported. They're supported by property values, strictly property values. There's no thought given to how your economic status or anything like that. So again, it's very early. The few people that have called me directly and asked me about it, I tell them not to get excited at this point about or try to speculate what a tax rate's going to be. I only say is look at the value. Most people in this day and age with access to computers, even if they don't have a house on the market, generally have a pretty good idea of what their house is valued at. So I say look at that. If it's close to what the value is, that's what it is. And when it comes to taxes, that's a whole other thing. But if you feel the assessment's too high, most definitely come in and sit down and talk to them. You get a couple of bites at this. You sit down with the revaluation company first, then you can talk to the tax assessor before the values are set. And if you're still not happy with what the value is set by the assessor, obviously then you can go through the appeal process. But again, has nothing to do with the tax rate. The tax rate is something entirely separate. And we're not going to know here until probably July or August of 17, really how it's going to truly affect everybody here. Again, I have some fear only because the property values have not bounced back on the mainland.
Rich, thank you.
No, and I appreciate that. I was just curious because you're right. I'm very concerned with what's going on, and certainly this is a generalization, but just seeing that if you're east of the boulevard, you were at least a 20% increase right across the board. Everybody I talked to, I mean, my neighbors are calling me from down south, up north Florida. They're like, what's going on? My one neighbor was 33%. We were just in the room. We did come and appeal, of course. And just in the 15, 20 minutes we're here, 6 people I knew were personally sitting in the room. And I think one of the reasons I was concerned is the fact that every meeting I've been to for like the last 3 or 4 years, pretty much we're still talking about the devastation of Beach Haven, rebuilding Borough Hall, our water company, the 22 or 21 or whatever downtown stores that are still vacant, the abandoned homes. Doesn't seem like it's this Shangri-La where our tax or our assessment should have gone up 20%. I know it's going to go up. I mean, I know we live in a nice place, there's no doubt about that, but this just seemed excessive. And I was just wondering if the council had any intention of, as a unit or group, of saying anything?
Bob
We
being a
don't-
realtor.
No, I had Rich and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I got some calls from folks that bought houses the last couple of years. And the east side does hold a premium, okay? I was on the west side, okay? But this guy happened to have a house, 3 up the boulevard, Ocean Side, not Ocean Block. And he has 2 houses, separated by a neighbor. One house didn't have it all, one house went up 30%. And what it appears that it appears in the past that the assessments might have been done purely on square footage and not necessarily marked to the market against other resales. And if you have a realtor friend that can send you comps and everything on your street, all they have to do is look at Beach Haven, look at what area and blocks you're in. And I sent them resales for the last year. Now, the assessments go back 6 months, so I don't want to jump the last year because we don't have that much really to show. He called me back and said, well, you know, my house is worth that much. But just an example. In the Ocean Side, I think on Fairview and a couple streets in there are 3 court houses, 2,500 square feet, new construction, 1 or 2, 3 off the boulevard. One built by Tom Keller. I think Eric Johnson built a couple of them. They resell for like 1.6 or a little over. Okay. They just hold their price. People want to be in Beach Haven. Joe Mancini had the same house on 19th Street, 3 off the boulevard, south side of the street, sold for 1,150. Okay, brand new construction. When I showed him his house, because he's at about 2,000 square feet, let's say, you know, proportionally, you know, when he went from 6 something to 9 something, it's justified by the resale. So I think in the assessments today, they're more marking them to the market on resales, not just on pure square footage. When you look at the other property he owns, didn't go up that much because it's an older house. It's probably 60 years old. It was rehab. The land values didn't change. Okay, so they're really now looking at improvements and stuff like that at what has sold compared to what you have. So I think if you look at the sales data, it might give you a little bit of an idea how they came up with the numbers.
Yeah, I did do that. I went on, Realtor.com and I looked around. And the only thing I could even find comparable in my neck of the woods was an older house on Center Street. And they tried to show me one on Liberty and Fairview. And I said, look, time out. I said, I'm down in the business zone. I said, we have the noise, congestion, traffic issues. You're talking about the elite residential end of town. So I said, that's not, but they couldn't even show me a realistic comp in my own neighborhood. And that kind of disturbed me. And then I mentioned the gentleman who was very nice. And I said to him, not for nothing. I said, Beach Haven is still having problems bouncing back from the storm. And he looked at me and goes, which storm? And I was like, okay.
The assessor?
Yes, not the assessor,
No.
one of the gentlemen that was taking down. And I don't even think there was an appraiser in the room or the assessors. I think it was all just clerks basically who were taking down your thoughts, why you thought it should be X, Y, and Z. But that kind of took me back too, and I'm like, whoa, we don't even know which storm, So I was just, wondering, because like I said, I'm sure you've all heard it because everybody's talking about it, but I just wanted to know if the council was considering any kind of, but obviously not.
Well, I think the big thing is going to be what our taxes really are going to be. I mean, I'm on the impression that it's the same amount of money they'll be collecting, except what Rich just said about the mainland, which is very upsetting because the number of people we send over to the mainland to school is minuscule. So we're paying a lot, but it sounds like we might be even paying more. But Beach Haven, when before this assessment, we got a list of all the towns in Ocean County, and it showed the difference between the assessed value and the sale value in the total town, right? So here's for 2015, here's what the assessed values are, and then here's what the sale values are. And Beach Haven had the biggest difference of any other town. The closer they are, you want them almost 1-to-1. So Beach Haven really needed
Beach Haven.
an assessment.
Yeah,
to-
Beach Haven was like about 80%.
82%.
Yeah, it was, and that's probably why you're seeing the 20% increase. But, so we were way off kilter on that. But the object of this is so that the people that do have houses that would sell at a higher amount really are paying a higher taxes than somebody whose house is likely not to sell or sell at a lower amount. But again, when I got mine, it just gave me the amount. It didn't break it into land or even, assessed value. Yeah, it just gave me, so we have to get more information.
So it's kind of
And we
scary.
were demanded, I mean, we didn't want to have this, believe me, but we were mandated, we had to have, you're supposed to have an assessment every 10 years, and this was 12 for us.
I just was curious if they took into account, and I mean, as a town, like I said, we're still hurting. And it just seemed like this was an across-the-board increase of 20, whatever. And that was my concern too.
How much longer is the company going to be here meeting with people?
I believe till the end of the month on that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already been in,
He's
and
been
he already
in.
explained that if we're not happy, then we go to the county, and then if we're not happy, go to the state, and so on and so forth.
The answer is they want us to sell, I guess.
And that's the thing I said to him, I said, our house isn't for sale, so
Right.
don't tell
See?
me what it's worth, it's
Right.
worth,
It's what's worth to you.
to me personally, yeah.
Well, Colleen, the next step in the process, I would encourage you to make an appointment with the assessor, because she's been our assessor since 2004, so she would think she would have a far better working knowledge of the town and the uniqueness of your house, and explain it to her, because they simply turn the results over to the assessor. It's up the assessor's responsibility to review all this and ultimately certify it to the county for the value. So she's the ultimate authority on it, not this particular company.
And she's in the borough,
You can call the tax office, and Joanne, the clerk, will put you in touch with her,
Okay,
and
thank
hopefully
you.
be able to make an appointment for you.
all
Hey,
right.
Rich, just to make sure I understand this. I mean, we can control our local taxes that we collect, but.
You don't control the values, no, that's set by the
I know,
tax
but
assessor.
the concern that I have from what you just said is that
We can raise a little.
the county taxes that we have to pay might go up. I mean, we can control what we pay for garbage collection, we can control what we pay for water and everything else, and for services that we provide. And as a town, we can manage that activity. But what the county is gonna charge us.
Well, John, the county on a larger level, they do exactly the same thing we do. They tally up their needs for the year, they strike a budget, and based on the budget, it goes against the overall value of property throughout Ocean County. And what I'm saying is, if our values go up proportionately higher than other parts of the county, it would seem logical that our value.
I have to make sure I understand
Yeah.
that. Thanks, Rich.
Okay. Thank you very much, I hope you all have a very nice holiday, and Rich, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that retirement.
Thank you, that was a I think a very
Merry
worthwhile
Christmas.
discussion. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Okay, nobody, then I close the floor to public comments, and now it's final remarks by council. We'll start with Mr. White.
Okay.
I know what he's going to say, I can probably.
I just want to say Merry Christmas, because I hear it going around this town a lot lately. There's a great feeling in this town about the holidays, and I hope everybody has a healthy, prosperous new year, and enjoy your families for the holidays. And Rich, we're having a party for you Thursday, but I can't say enough about what we learned under your tutelage and your mentorship. It's been an outstanding, your ability to do budgets and deal with personnel problems, and harmonious labor relations that you've maintained here are fabulous, and I want to say well done.
Thank you, Jim. And it's not too late to sign up for the party.
I know, we still got a
Yeah,
few seats.
bring your check in. Okay, Chuck?
I was going to say the same thing about the party. We have a terrific party to honor George, Mary Pence, and Rich at the Ingleside. It's a very minuscule fee. It's $40, and it's going to be great. I think I'd like to just congratulate Jen Klein on being appointed to Welfare Director, Jim Markowski to Captain, Sherry Bowler's reappointment as CFO, and both Chris Carson and Dean Cleland for their new contracts and appointments. To everyone, Merry Christmas, a healthy, happy, and prosperous New Year.
Thank you, Chuck. And Mr. Keeler?
Well, this is my last meeting also, and, you know, the four of us, I guess we've been here for 6 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, the first time we sat around the table, we had some great assignments we had to do. We had no idea what to do with them, and
Oh, the budget, remember the first budget
it
we
was
did?
crazy, but, you know, thanks, you know, Rich, I think we all learned a lot from you, and realized how much information you had hidden in that computer of yours, going way back, because, you know, I think the form of government was very positive, the change for the town. And I think it gave all of us an opportunity, who've never been in politics before, to get involved and meet everybody, and it's a great thing, and it's good to see new people come in. And, you know, having Rich, I think in the very beginning was very important, because he had all the information to help us really over the hump and kind of get started. And I think Sherry was kind of like the house mom. I mean, she had to keep us all under control and take care of things, and we thank her for that, because again, it was interesting. But a couple of folks that sat around that table in the very beginning of the first meeting we had, I think we need to remember Frank Little Jr. really helped us out, Dick Shackleton. I mean, the professionals that we had in the town helped us. They took a reprieve on appointments for 6 months till we really understood what was going on with the town, and I think that was very, very positive. I'd like to congratulate Tom Lynch on his election, and he'll be filling the seats, and I think everybody's very pleased, and we're very confident he's going to do a great job. I'd like to take another point too for just incredible how many people supported my daughter's recovery. Excuse me. And forever wonderfully grateful to everybody in Beach Haven. She's doing extremely well. You know, she was in a very serious accident, and she's doing very, very well. Learning with brain injuries, it just takes time is a big factor. But it was so overwhelming when I walked into the benefit and it was more than I had to take. And I thank everybody who participated. And it was a wonderful experience here for 6 years, and I'm going to miss everybody. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bob, 6.5. What? 6.5.
6.5 years.
Yeah, because we went from June to
Oh, my God.
to November. Don, it's your turn.
Well, being the new guy on the block, I mean, you don't realize how important it is to have mentors like Bob and George and Mary Pence and Rich to really help you get through the learning about the town. You don't realize what you really don't know. I mean, you think you come in here and you can make changes, but they show you the ropes, they work with you, and I just want to appreciate all the people that are retiring this year, and particularly quiet George Gilbert in the back there, who always brought a sense of good logic and good thoughts to whenever things were being put up, and he always brought it back down to earth and had some good ideas for the town. And I'm going to miss you, George. But again, they're great mentors to me, Tom, and we'll try to be the same mentors for you, but they're great people. One piece of business, and I'll just bring it up briefly because Bill brought it up. Mayor Davis and I sat in a meeting last week in Surf City with every town. Every town was represented at that meeting, and they met with the Department of Environmental Protection and the Office of Local Government Assistance. And there will be an ongoing effort to deal with reduction in flooding on the boulevard and properties west of the boulevard. There is about $6 million a year that the towns will try to avail themselves that comes out of this group to help us do this type of work. So programs are underway, and we also went to the federal government meeting in Stockton College that evening. They're going to do a 3-year study, then they're going to design. So it'll probably take you 6 years before you see a project coming out of that. So we're not gonna get much out of the federal, but we are gonna work with the state and environmental, and we're gonna work with the other towns on the island, so we're not gonna reinvent the wheel. If the project looks good and successful in Long Beach Township, we don't have to redesign it to work well in Beach Haven. So we're gonna try working and meeting every 6 weeks. So that's the only piece of business I'll bring up today, but again, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And again, thank you to all the people that are retiring.
Thank you, and everybody said everything I want to say, but again, I want to thank those that are retiring, and George back there has been such a support. I think the Public Works Department has just been exceptional under your leadership, and I think Chris is going to continue doing a good job. You've just brought such spirit to the Public Works Department and the town, the recovery of the town after Sandy, and all you do for the town. It's amazing, and I want to say a very special thank you to you. I want to thank Rich. I have to say, when I was thinking about running for office 6 years ago, I knocked on Rich's door. I didn't really know him very well, but I remember the whole talk about getting a town manager, and I kept thinking, why do we need a town manager? Why spend the money? Rich was such a wealth of knowledge. He really, I took like notes. I felt like I was in a class, and I just learned so much from Rich. And in his very quiet way, he's done a very, very good job of managing the town. He really has a understanding of this town in particular, but in general, I think many people don't realize the depth of what he does. And Rich usually doesn't offer advice unless you ask for it. And I always ask for Rich's advice because it usually is very good advice. In fact, always good advice. And I want to thank Rich for all you've taught me. It's been exceptional. And Mary isn't here, but if she ever watches this on TV, Mary has just been a wonderful asset to the town, and she's just a wonderful person. And I know Jen will do a good job, and Christy's going to take over her role in the Land Use Board. And but it's going to be very sad to miss. I'll be missing you guys. But you can see now, this is Christy's ran this meeting tonight, and she did a great job. And she put together the agenda online and did a wonderful job. It was so easy. I could get to the bills, I could see all the ordinances and the resolutions just there, right on my computer. So it was wonderful. So Christy will be doing more and more clerk. She's our deputy clerk, and she's taking the classes to become a full-fledged clerk. And we're all very excited about having Sherry on board. So hopefully it'll be a smooth transition, and hopefully those of you that are retiring, Rich and George and Mary, will continue to offer us some advice and leadership along the way, because I think we could use it. All of us. But
George is going to be fishing.
Right. I think it's still, I mean, he knows how to make things work, so I hope you'll be a resource. And I just want to say also, Beach Haven is a wonderful place. This is a town where people know each other and people really come to your help when you need it. My husband has been very ill, and he's doing better. He just had some more surgery today, but the number of people that have come to me and offering to help and bringing me food and support, it's just been phenomenal. And I just want to thank everybody, and I want to thank all of you guys here and out in television land, if you ever watch this. Thank you for all the volunteerism in this town. It's wonderful, and I hope it continues, because I think we have recovered nicely from Sandy, but we still have a lot to go. And I love the enthusiasm of everybody in the town. So thank you, and have a wonderful holiday season. And I'll see you next year.
God willing.
God willing.
And the bay don't rise.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good job, Rich.